Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Feeling great and having a great start to your Tuesday and your week. If it's your first time joining this week, I hope your week is going well. Got a lot of things to talk about this morning. There's multiple areas we need to watch for strong to severe storms. Really, there's one specific area that I'm somewhat concerned about. We could have a nasty line of storms that works through portions of this area a little bit later this afternoon. Could have some really strong winds, large hail, and then even an isolated tornado threat. And even though that tornado threat isn't super high today, there is a threat for tornadoes for today. So we'll break it all down for you folks. Even got a chance of some flash flooding. We have a moderate risk or a very small section. That does include this area that will be under the gun for these severe storms. So we'll break it all down for you folks in this video. We'll cover the entire lower 48 like we always do and keep you guys ahead of what's going to happen for today. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Appreciate the support lately. It's been amazing. Really, I wouldn't say lately, really the entire year. It was a really slow winter. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about for at least my neck of the woods here in the southeast, which is where I started talking weather on. So, I couldn't reel in a winter storm for you folks here this winter, but you guys have steadily tuned in. We've grown the channel for many geographical locations, and I really appreciate each and every one of you folks who trust what I do here, even though it's a smaller channel. Thank you all for making this part of your daily routine. It really means the world. I really appreciate it. If you folks got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, you know the deal. Please put those in the comments below. Not only do I pray over it, but a whole lot of other people pray over it too. So it's a powerful thing here, and it's a way to glorify God. So let's get rolling this morning. Let's take a look at water vapor loop. The ridge is flattened out somewhat, so you have a little bit more of a zonal flow. You see this kind of avenue, if you will. All the flow is kind of flattened out. It was going way up here in Canada when we did this yesterday morning, but more so flattened out now. And we have this area of showers and storms moving through areas of the plains. And we'll see as this begins to move more so southeast throughout the morning hours and the afternoon hours, and we'll see as this enters more of an unstable atmosphere, if this really gets its act together, even more than what it is this morning, and potentially brings some nasty weather for areas of Missouri, western Kentucky, western Tennessee, maybe northern Arkansas, areas of Illinois, maybe Indiana, maybe all the way down to northern portions of Alabama and North Georgia as we get into the evening hours. Okay, so it's crazy to think that this area right in here could potentially be all the way down here by the time we get into later this evening, but there is a possibility of that. We still have a pretty modest flow going right into the northeast, so pretty much an uncapped environment will allow for the potential for widespread showers and storms in the northeast today as a flow kind of digs down like this, and then it shoots back up like that across the northeast. This flow aloft, this lift, if you will provide enough oomph in the atmosphere, if you will, for the chance for some strong to severe storms across this region. Then we're watching a little piece of energy at the top of this ridge way up here that could spark some nasty storms up here in North Dakota, the Dakotas. And then we're even watching for a couple little areas for some strong to severe storms in Nevada, maybe even southern Arizona a little bit later today. So that's what the flow looks like this morning, what's kind of going on. We take a look at what it actually looks like on radar, and we have this area of kind of disorganized showers and storms. But I will tell you, some of them are packing a punch. Some of them are severe warned right in the middle of Nebraska. We'll watch to see what this does as this continues to dip southeastward. Maybe another area of kind of showers and storms will kind of take its place outside this region. Maybe this is just the region flat out that gets into Missouri later. We do have a severe warned storm here in northeast Tennessee, and we'll just go on and zoom into this complex right here. Like I said, severe warned storm. This will come into view. Here it is. So this is a pretty nasty line of storms. There's already a lot of storm fuel in the atmosphere. CAPE is what we call it. Really fueling these storms already this morning. This is already really building into Missouri, areas of Kentucky, northern Arkansas, southern Illinois this morning. When we move over here, we got a severe thunderstorm warning up for some areas here in northeast Tennessee. We'll see what happens as this tries to make its way over the higher elevations, the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina. Typically they weaken, and even some showers and downpours, even a more consolidated area of heavy rain off the coast of the northeast. Outside of that, Nothing much really else going on out there this morning. This is the big deal today. We have 2 slight risk. I want to let you guys know. I always do. At least I try to remember to do it. If you're, watching this a couple hours later after I drop this video, then this could look totally different. And I could see this being a day where things broaden, the chances for severe weather increase in the later updates from the Storm Prediction Center. So just note that I'm making this as of 7 a.m. Eastern Time. They typically drop another update around 8:45, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get an enhanced risk today. And if there is an enhanced risk, I would say it'd be somewhere right in here. And I'll talk about why here in a second. But we do have a slight risk, which goes right through the heart of Missouri, all the way into the Boot Heel, Missouri, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, western Tennessee. This does include Nashville, into the Paducah, Kentucky area, and Carbondale, Illinois. You might as well include Evansville, Indiana. Okay, this could broaden, so we'll watch for this. We have the slight risk up here, and then we have a large marginal risk, level 1 out of 5, that includes basically all of the Northeast, except maybe Boston, the immediate coastal regions from Rhode Island all the way up to the coastal regions of Maine, with just a general risk of storms. We'll watch for a couple areas of severe storms. I said Nevada earlier. I meant to say more so Utah, but a very small section of eastern Nevada, and then a pretty large area of Utah has a level 1 out of 5 risk of strong to severe storms today. And same thing for southern areas of Arizona, Tucson. Watch out. Some of these showers and storms could hit severe limits. I would say storm showers typically don't hit severe limits. I got to get out of the routine of saying that. But the tornado risk, there's a bimodal mode of a 2% risk. One up here in North Dakota, and then one down here in this entire region right here. Okay, so this includes Kansas City. Pretty much includes St. Louis, I would say, down to the Boot Heel, extreme western Kentucky, all the way down to Nashville, Jackson, Tennessee, guys. So I love when it does that. So we have that 2% risk of a tornado in the green areas within 25 miles in a given location. That's a 2% risk, okay? Wind threat, don't even have a 15% risk of it up here, but down here we certainly do. And I could see them introducing a hatched risk of significant winds. But as of now, in the yellow, you just have a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. But they will likely, as confidence increases as we get later in the morning hours, I really think that they will introduce maybe a bump up to a 30% risk, or either a bump up to a chance of significant winds somewhere in this region. So that means there'll be a hatched risk of significant winds, which means there's a 10% risk of winds exceeding that 65 knots or higher, which is basically 75 miles per hour or higher winds, which is hurricane force winds. Okay, so be aware of this. Hail threat. We have a chance of maybe some supercells up here, a few supercells in North Dakota. So not only do you have the 15% risk of hail, which is a 15% risk of 1 inch in diameter hail, you also have a 10% risk of significant hail overlapping this. Not added to it, but its own thing. Then we have the 15% risk of 1 inch in diameter hail within 25 miles in a given location in this region. This area over here, just that 5% risk of hail, chance of gusty winds. So, excessive rainfall outlook. We do need to watch the Northeast. You're under the gun again. You got a slight risk, which is a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met. But look down here. You have a moderate risk into portions of western Kentucky, western and northwestern Tennessee, extreme southern Illinois, and then even a small portion of southeast Missouri. You have a moderate risk, which is at least a 40% risk flash flood guidance being exceeded into this region. So please be aware of flooding with these storms. I think you'll have 2 rounds, one that comes in this afternoon, and then another that might develop later into the overnight hours. So we'll certainly watch how this develops, and we're going to talk about how it could potentially develop in this video. Watches and warnings, massive area of the southern U.S. Heat advisories are either excessive heat warnings. Please heed these warnings today. Temperatures will be blistering hot in Texas. And it's beginning to cool off somewhat in the desert southwest, but still hot. California beginning to cool off as this ridge is beginning to flatten. Anywhere where you see these gray colors, that is air quality alerts. So we're still dealing with smoke. It's thicker in certain areas. It was very thick in the Carolinas here locally. Yesterday, I'm located in central South Carolina. It was very thick here in our state today. But air quality alerts all through the Northeast, and flood watches have been reissued up for Vermont, New Hampshire, a few counties in western Maine, and then pretty much almost every county except down here in New York City and eastern New York State has been issued. Western Mass and then areas of northwest Connecticut have flood watches. Tropics update, old drunk Don out here has re-intensified into a tropical storm. So we got tropical storm Don, not subtropical storm. So it's gained more tropical characteristics. It'll continue just to swirl out here, and we'll see what it does as we get later into the weekend, but not a big storyline really at all, just because it's not really affecting anybody. So what we're going to do, we're going to do a little differently. I know Nib typically we start out with the southeast, but we're going to focus right in on the severe weather threat for this region. I know I got a good bit of people who tune in from this region, so we're just going to get right to the area that I'm most concerned about. And we'll start off this morning, and we'll take a look at the HRRR model, and then we'll compare a couple other models too and see what they look like. So obviously Missouri, Illinois, Western Kentucky, Western Tennessee, Central Tennessee, Northern Arkansas, all in this frame right here. So if you're confused about what time frame we're at, obviously this is Central Time, so this is an Eastern Time. So back this one up 1 hour. If I forget to mention the time frame or anything like that, I'm big on mentioning time frames instead of actual times. But we're getting to about that mid-morning time frame. We could have some storms that might pop up in Western Tennessee. It's quite possible. Some storms are possible in Southern Missouri as we make it closer to lunchtime, and just some scattered convection. Okay, and really what the HRRR model likes is a detachment from this main energy kind of that's in Nebraska right now. And then we have just kind of the, I would say, the re-energizing of another area of storms that develops kind of in southeast Missouri. So it kind of detaches itself from this energy, and then another area emerges here in southeast Missouri. So, this is south of St. Louis. You got I would say, some pretty intense storms developing into this region. You still want to watch these storms back here, here in kind of central Missouri around 1 to 2 p.m. But this is the area of storms as early as 1 p.m. that could be blasting through the boot heel of Missouri. Of course, you could have scattered strong to severe storms in western Kentucky at the same time frame. But this really develops. Okay, and at this point, you stop, it's around 2 p.m. The HRRR model wants this right where basically Illinois, Kentucky, and Missouri connect. Okay, so, this is right over, Silkston, Carbondale. I would say point south. It's south of Carbondale, but this could very well be a little bit further north. And this is blasting through the area. And this area of storms could be much more broader, could be much more intense than what it's showing. It does show it being quite intense into this region. But we continue to make our way through. This could affect the Mayfield area, the Paducah, Kentucky area. Then this starts to get into Tennessee, but it's very strung out. I mean, it's still storming at around 4 p.m. back here in southeast Missouri, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, and then northwest Tennessee. And you keep this going here, and, it could be affecting Poplar Bluff. What is that? Cape Girardeau. Definitely please correct me in the comments. I've shied away from saying that town, but it looks like definitely a bigger community right there in Missouri. So definitely you guys correct me. Hopefully I said it right, but you guys know I'm bad about butchering names. I mean well. But, you stop it here around 5 p.m., rush hour, nasty storms in the Boot Hill, Missouri. And these are starting to push through into the Tennessee area. Jackson, Tennessee, Clarksville, Tennessee, Nashville, Bowling Green, Kentucky. Could be dealing with some storms later this afternoon. And then this continues. And we'll talk about the Deep South here in a second, but we're starting to get into the early evening time frame, 7, 8 p.m. And then we really got to start to watch out further south into northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, even Georgia. But this is a nasty area of storms moving through southwest areas of Tennessee, Jackson, like I mentioned, Savannah, Lexington, Waynesboro, some small communities there, and kind of southwestern areas of Tennessee. And we'll talk about the Deep South here in a second. So that's what the HRRR model shows. This is what the NAM shows, okay? The NAM says there's an area of storms in northeast Arkansas right now. But if we go to the radar and we look at northeast Arkansas, there is nothing going on. There's some downpour action, but there's nothing. So the NAM's already getting it wrong this morning to start off. So that should tell you already that maybe we shouldn't trust it, but we'll show it. It shows by the time we get to mid to late morning, some scattered storms are possible in Tennessee, areas in northeast Arkansas. But NAM really gets the leftovers of what's going on in Nebraska and really attaches itself to this energy instead of like the HRRR model that kind of re-energizes another piece of energy right here in southeast Missouri later in the morning, early afternoon. So it really takes this nasty area of storms, the NAM does, blast through northwest Missouri, slams Columbia, Missouri, and by the time this is around 1 p.m., it's getting really close. It would flirt with the St. Louis area around mid-afternoon, and this is moving through the Jefferson City region. We'll talk about more so deeper, further east in Kentucky here in a second, but this wants to move a little bit further north. This takes takes this line of storms through southern Illinois, the Boot Hill, Missouri, into about mid to late afternoon, okay? And it really has this dissipating as we get late into the evening. It looks totally different than the HRRR model. Totally different, okay? And what it does show is another area of showers and storms kind of rejuvenating back into Missouri. I would say all of eastern Missouri. And then this is when the flooding risk could really crank up later overnight tonight. And we could have some showers and storms that might like train around a boundary right into here and move over the same areas. This is 2-3 o'clock in the morning. This is going along and just south of St. Louis, back into Columbia, Missouri, all the way through southern Illinois. And this would bring some nasty storms potentially into the wee hours of the morning for tomorrow morning. So we could be waking up around 4 a.m., 5 a.m. to a nasty area of storms working through this entire region right into here. And we could be waking up to a complex of storms. And, the HRRR model shows that kind of that same scenario. We get into after, this is around midnight, we show some more storms developing in southern Illinois, western Kentucky, and then moving over some of these same areas, but it's a little bit further east. It does the same thing that the NAM does for the overnight convection showers and storms, but it's a little bit further east. Wherever this little band of heavy storms really shows up overnight, that's when we can have a flooding risk. That's why we have that moderate risk of flooding into this general region right into here. So we have to watch these storms overnight too, okay? So 2 rounds of storms, I'm thinking. All right, you look at the FV3 model, and we'll kind of go through this quick because we're spending a lot of time on this. It really shows some storms moving into the St. Louis area around mid to early to mid-afternoon. I would say, it favors the HRRR model with this line of storms, or kind of blob of storms making it all the way to Tennessee by the time we get into the evening hours. But it does show that kind of rejuvenation of more showers and storms developing around and just after midnight. And this is even further east. So this gets into the Evansville around just after midnight. Some big time storms fire up and just kind of funnel over this same area, almost like fire hose over the same area just after midnight. So NAM with the overnight convection more so over here, HRRR model more so right in here, and then the FV3 model into here. So it's going to be a tough one to figure out. But just know this entire region, with these storms, you got large hail, okay, damaging winds, which I think we could have significant winds wherever this line of storms forms, which I think it will. And then you got that tornado threat. And you look at the HRRR model as far as the wind gust, like I said, it really favors the southern area. It really favors these storms really getting together. In fact, you see this area right here, that's over 100-mile-per-hour wind gust shooting through the Boot Hill, Missouri. I'm not saying that's going to happen, guys. The HRRR model typically overdoes this. But the HRRR model favors this line of storms really getting together later this afternoon and this evening and really crushing, western and central Tennessee with a damaging line of storms. I say damaging line, that sounds bad, but a line of storms that could produce damaging winds through Tennessee late into the afternoon into the evening hours. So we need to be aware of this. We need to, really watch the radar this morning. This morning will be huge because, you look at the NAM with the same thing. The NAM likes it. And remember, this is in swaths, so this is a 1 hour interval, so that's why you see these weird gaps. Okay, but the NAM likes more so this line of storms being pretty intense late morning, early afternoon, a little bit further up into Missouri. That's why, you look at the Storm Prediction Center, it has the slight risk extended all the way up here and then all the way down here. It's a pretty broad area. And it's because confidence is low on where the worst of the storms are going to be. So it'll be interesting. The NAM likes powerful line of storms really developing quickly and moving through areas of Missouri later this morning. So we'll see exactly what happens. The updraft velocity swath shows on the HRRR model, basically wherever this line of storms really gets going, there is going to be some embedded spin-ups, maybe some semi-supercells in here, which are rotating thunderstorms. So even in this line of storms, we need to watch out for little kinks in the storms. There is a decent flow aloft that will support this. So please be aware. If you get under a tornado warning and it just looks like a line of storms on radar, take it serious because it could be embedded into this line and you never know when it's going to be right on top of you. So please take this tornado threat serious into this region today. And it looks like it's more vibrant. It shows the chances for rotating thunderstorms the highest based off the HRRR model, the Boot Hill, Missouri, Western Tennessee, things like that. So rainfall in this region, a lot of rain could fall. The National Weather Service kind of favors an area between all the short range models, but it really likes to hit Western Kentucky, Western Tennessee, extreme Southern Illinois, and Southeast Missouri with anywhere from 2 to as much as 6 inches of rain. And I think we're going to have some flash flooding as we get into the overnight hours. So if you live in this region, take this serious because someone's going to get hit by multiple rounds of storms later tonight. You look at the ingredients that goes into this. The winds aloft support this. We got this exit region of this mid-level jet, so this will cause forcing for these storms. We got a stout 50 to 60, even at times 65 knots mid-level jet. So think of this as the kinematics, the wind energy that's going to support a damaging wind threat. And you can see this is coming out the northwest, a stout northwest flow riding right through Missouri into areas of the Mississippi Valley throughout the afternoon and evening hours. And then you mix that with the Cape that is building into this region as we speak. Mixed layer Cape into the Boot Hill, Missouri, based off the HRRR model, wants to rise well over 4,000 joules per kilogram. That's rocket fuel for these storms, and it'll eat it all up. But this is just the HRRR model, so a lot of fuel is going to build ahead of these storms, even in Tennessee. Cape values well over 3,000 joules per kilogram. So think of this as a lot of fuel to the atmosphere for these storms to feed off of. So let's take a look at the Deep South, and we're not going to compare all these models again, but I will show you what the HRRR model says. This would be the worst case scenario for the Deep South, and we would watch 4, 5, 6 p.m. some storms making their way through Tennessee. This would impact Tennessee late afternoon, early evening hours. But as we get into about 8 p.m., these storms can make it all the way to Florence, Huntsville, Alabama, maybe even nip the northeast corner of Mississippi. And then how much do they hold together as they move into the North Georgia mountains? Atlanta could get some showers and storms somewhere late evening. The Cumberland Plateau could get some storms around evening time frame, between 7, 8, 9 p.m. That's if the HRRR model pans out. But you look at the NAM, and we'll briefly go over this. The NAM, it shows nothing. It really don't. It does show us waking up to a strong to severe line of storms in Tennessee tomorrow morning, but it doesn't show anything late this evening for the Deep South. You look at the FV3 model, and the FV3 model kind of is a middle ground between the HRRR model and the NAM. It does show an area of storms making it into Tennessee. Late afternoon, early evening would show some storms around the Nashville area, points south and southwest, and then eventually making it into the Huntsville area 10, 11 p.m. But I'm telling you, I can talk about this until I'm blue in the face, but it's just kind of one of those days where you really got to pay attention to what's going on the radar this morning. But you look at the HRRR model, which is the worst case scenario. It shows, 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts working its way through Nashville around 5, 6 p.m. and some gusty winds, even making it all the way into North Alabama. If this line of storms remains intact, evening time frame, late evening, and we could get some gusty winds with this line of storms all the way to the midnight time frame. So just be aware of this. This is the worst case scenario for this area as far as severe weather unfolding. So Florida, just typical summer pop-ups. I do want to mention nothing unusual. Some of these storms could produce a lot of heavy rain, frequent lightning, even some gusty winds, maybe some small hail. But these will, form right just after lunchtime, maybe even earlier, just off the coast of Tampa Bay and the western coast of Florida. And they could drift inland just from outflow boundaries, things like that. And, 5 p.m., we're still left with some storms really close to the Space Coast, the eastern coast of Florida. And they will drift around, merge into one another. And then by the time we get into the overnight hours, late evening, they diminish. So, just typical Florida stuff. I never just want to leave you guys hanging, quite literally, because y'all are hanging. But always want to mention you guys' forecast, but typical Florida stuff. Carolinas, Virginia. I will mention, we'll talk about Kentucky here in a second, but, up here in Kentucky, you guys could see some very isolated, scattered, strong to severe storms. Not everybody's going to get hit, but these are flying through the region. And these are just pop-up, but there is enough flow out there for some of these to be strong to severe. So if you're in West Virginia, Charleston, Beckley, Huntington, you guys could see some strong to severe storms later on this afternoon, this evening. Some of these storms might just be regular storms. They're maybe not even severe. Some pop-ups are possible based off the HRRR model in North Georgia, Western Virginia. These will flow through the area, might become more widespread as we get into the evening. 8, 9 p.m. It shows a much more widespread scenario up here in Kentucky, the southern half of West Virginia, and then even getting into the foothills, more so the Piedmont of Virginia. Some storms can make their way into the region, could cross all the way through Virginia throughout the evening hours, and then more maybe of a consolidated area of showers and storms might work its way through eastern Kentucky, southern West Virginia, western Virginia, as we make our way into the late evening hours just before midnight. So models are going to differ with this, but I can tell you there's enough flow right here in eastern central Kentucky, West Virginia, Virginia for some showers and storms. But I would say the immediate central Georgia, the South Carolina, central North Carolina region, not much flow out there today, but we could have some sea breeze storms that pops up along the Georgia-Carolina coastline. And speaking a little bit, further north, I didn't want to leave you guys hanging up here. I would say there is a chance for a strong to severe storm or two in southern Ohio, but not a huge threat. But like I said, just watch the rest of Kentucky today. This is getting around the 7 to 8 p.m. time frame. Some stronger storms are possible around Kentucky, Cincinnati, and just riding that kind of Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky state line, if you will. And as we get into the evening hours, we'll see what happens, but we'll watch this later on today. But there is a risk of some isolated strong to severe storms in this entire region right into here. So, and then once you get further over here, you got more so the slight risk. And, this obviously extends a little bit further into West Virginia also. So, we move up into the northeast, and this will be the general look today. We get into the morning hours, the afternoon hours, and look at all this convection that pops up from New York State, points northeast, and every state after that. This flows through, and then we lose it with the daytime heating. I know you're thinking, Mitch, that was way too fast. Well, we're going to zoom in, okay? Just to zoom into this region that, has the best chance of some summer, potentially strong and severe storms. We make our way into this is around 1 p.m. Bang, storms are already popping off in the southern tier of New York State, Rochester, Syracuse, the Finger Lakes region, all the way up into the northern Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, northern Vermont. All these will have a chance to produce those tropical downpours. So you would hope that the storms move in and move out very quickly and don't stay over the same area. And I feel like they will, but there is a chance for some stronger storms down here in New Jersey too. Okay, we don't ignore these. These could produce some hail, some damaging winds. Tornado threat is low, but as always, not non-existent. But it does show some storm activity around the New York City area around the 3 to 4 p.m. time frame, all the way going into the 6 p.m. time frame. So you could be dealing with some storms around rush hour in New York City. We'll take it to about 5 p.m. storms. This could, these storms could be more so in this area of Vermont. It's just kind of one of those days where you watch the radar. But we stop it here, 5 p.m. Big storms flying through the western areas of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, very isolated and scattered. Storms cruising right through the central area of Mass, areas of Connecticut. But really figuring out exactly where these pop up, it's going to be difficult to do. But it really likes two areas. It favors two areas based off this model. It really likes kind of this area right into here. and it likes a little streamer developing right into here of storms. That's not to say that anybody in this region ain't gonna get storms, so that's certainly not the case. But this particular model of the HRRR model likes that kind of scenario. So these storms will fly through the region, might become more kind of congealed together in Vermont, New Hampshire. This could presents a flash flooding issue in Vermont and New Hampshire, and this moves through the area. Could dump a lot of rain. So, watch out as the sun's going down 9-10 p.m. Could be dealing with some heavy rain surging through New Hampshire, Vermont, eventually into western Maine. So definitely a several-hour period of showers and storms from New York State, New Jersey, Long Island, points northeast, and everybody in between. Pennsylvania, you cannot rule out an isolated storm or two, but especially in northern PA, but pretty quiet in PA today. But like I said, quarter, half inch of rain's possible in many areas, but once you get into Vermont, New Hampshire, western Maine, widespread half inch to 2 inch rainfall totals. We don't need any more rain up here. We need a break, but it is possible. Boston, Eastern Mass, Rhode Island, probably won't see much storm activity today, but you can't completely rule it out. But more rain in this area over the next 24 hours. Another 1 to 2 inches of rain, widespread for this region. South Central U.S., not a whole lot to speak on, guys. Just very hot. We've already talked about what you're seeing in Missouri right there. We'll talk about Colorado here in a second, where we can be dealing with some showers, even some storm activity later this afternoon, this evening, maybe even an isolated supercell in southern Nebraska. Outside of that, just very hot. Ridge right over this region, and we talk about how hot, blistering hot, even hotter than yesterday. 108 in Amarillo, Lubbock, Odessa, 105, 110 degrees. Dallas-Fort Worth region, the 103 to 106 degree range, maybe even hotter, a little bit hotter as you work your way a little bit further west of the city. Abilene, could push 110. Just blistering hot. And the further east you work into Texas, the more humid it is. So the higher the actual heat index is. So I know you see lower temperatures in eastern Oklahoma, eastern Texas, into Louisiana, but in Arkansas. But just note that the further east you work into this region, the more you get into that Gulf air mass. So the higher the heat indices are. So, you look at temperatures in the upper 90s, low 100s in this region. You look at the heat index for this region, and I just realized I have a cat in here, and the heat index is well over 100-something degrees. Okay, so that's 6, 7, 8 degrees above the actual air temperature. But if you look out here where it's getting up to like 105, 110 degrees, the heat index is actually lower. Okay, it's lower, and you don't have a heat index. It's actually cooler. So, cat wants to jump on my lap and dig her claws into my legs. We look into the north central U.S. Really, the only thing to speak about as these storms clear out of Nebraska, head into Missouri, is some showers up here initially this afternoon in northwest Minnesota and northern areas of North Dakota. These will surge through, but then, and most models agree with this, kind of in east central areas of North Dakota, we'll watch for some vigorous storm development into this region. And this is what we will watch out for. Outside of that, a little bit later overnight tonight, we'll watch for some storms. Showers and storms are possible in southern Minnesota. Then we'll watch for some stronger storms up here, which we'll get detailed with right now. The northern plains, like I said, even as early as, based off the HRRR model, around 10 a.m., 11 a.m. lunchtime, some storms are possible in southern areas of South Dakota. And let me go on and zoom into South Dakota right here. But not a lot of cities to mention, always stinks here, without zooming in big time on South Dakota right in here. But as we get a little bit later into the afternoon, evening hours, big storms begin to pop up. This is around 5, 6 p.m. You see these storms right in here, and there will be some storms possible in southeast Wyoming, northeast Colorado too. Don't want to ignore these. These could produce some gusty winds, some hail. Tornado threat's very low, but any of these storms right here in this region, western Nebraska, like I said, southeast Wyoming, northeast Colorado, could produce, as we get into some late afternoon, evening time frame, could produce some severe weather. It's quite possible. Eastern North Dakota, strong to severe storms are possible. Some of these could be supercells. They could produce a tornado. I would not be surprised in eastern North Dakota today or even the far northeast corner of South Dakota if we hear or see about a tornado later this evening. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And then we could have some stronger storms that get going late into the evening in western Nebraska. But if we look at that updraft helicity swath in eastern South Dakota and then northeast, I'm sorry guys, my cat's just begging for me to pet her down here on my lap. Northeast South Dakota, the HRRR model does like a couple areas to watch, maybe one or two supercells that could spin up a tornado in this region. So, not really anywhere near Fargo or Bismarck, but, if you're in, Jamestown, Valley City, watch out around this region, point south. And, there's a lot of very small towns and communities down here. Lemoore, Oaks, Loudon, Fullerton, Verona. Very, very small communities here in southern and southeast North Dakota. I would watch out in your neck of the woods today. Some of these could produce, so be careful. Western U.S., there is a chance for some strong to severe storms. We stop it here. This is around 2 p.m., kind of Rockies time out here. And we got some storms developing. I would really watch out. Like the storm prediction mentions, there's a marginal risk if you live in western areas of Utah. I would say definitely well south and southwest of Salt Lake City. Certainly some showers and storms are possible that could hit severe limits. Some gusty winds, maybe even some small hail, tornado threat, almost non-existent, but not non-existent, but close. But the southern half of Utah and even eastern Nevada, some downpours are possible. And as we get into the 4 or 5 p.m. time frame, I think a lot of rain could fall in this region as we basically just have a flow that's rounding off this flattening ridge. So a flow aloft will support some downpours, some storms from central, maybe even western areas of Nevada, but central Nevada, all the way through the heart of Utah, all the way over the Rockies, all the way to northeast Colorado and then southern Wyoming, which is where you'll watch for thunderstorm development. So this will fly through this region, lift up more so northeast and then eastward. And, this entire corridor could see some heavy rain throughout the evening, and then it'll diminish with the loss of daytime heating. But some of these storms in this region could hit that severe limit. And I don't want to ignore southern Arizona. You could get a strong storm or two that is possible in southern and southeast Arizona, I would say more so late afternoon, early this evening. So just south of Tucson and around the Tucson area, watch for some stronger storms. Temperatures, typical summer type stuff, very hot in the deep south, southeast, nothing compared to Texas though, but the humidity will be there. There will be some pockets of dry air in the southeast today that will make the humidity not quite as bad, but temperatures well into the low to mid 90s. The dog days of summer here in the south anywhere, so it's just typically hot weather. There is some relief up in the northeast, the Ohio Valley, the Midwest. Temperatures only in the 70s and 80s up here in this region. Mid-Atlantic pretty hot, 80s, low 90s. But Texas we know is very hot all the way up into southern Kansas, including all of Oklahoma, where temperatures will get well over 100 degrees for widespread areas. The desert Southwest is very hot, but not quite as bad as what we have seen, but still very hot. And then everybody else, just pretty warm all the way up into, I would say, southwest and western areas of South Dakota, even eastern Wyoming, even all the way up into the mid to upper 80s into eastern Montana. But take a look out there. That's what's going on. That's all I got, guys. Have a great day. Stay safe out there if you're in these areas that have the risk of severe weather. And you guys have an awesome and blessed Tuesday.